Hi, this is Joey from Heroes Manufactured, and you're listening to True North Country Comics Podcast.
Welcome to the True North Country Comics Podcast, dedicated to promote Canadian comic book creators and supporters. It's August 13th, 2020. I'm John Swinimer. If you have a comment, criticism, or question, you can contact me at john@truenorthcountrycomics.com. On this episode, I chat with Jowy from Heroes Manufactured. The podcast is available on Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts. Jowy is the host of the Comics Vault with Heroes Manufactured. She's the former founder of Comics Inc. podcast, a show that was dedicated to discussions on the latest in pop culture, comics, and movies. In addition, Jowy was a key staff member at Gotham Central, a Toronto-based comic shop that won the 2018 Schuster Awards Harvey Kramer Award for Best Comic Book Retailer in Canada. And to top that off, Jowy has also worked at Chapter House Publishing, home of Captain Canuck, as their publishing administrator and convention coordinator. So without further ado, here's my chat with Jowy from Heroes Manufactured. So I'm here with Jowy from Heroes Manufactured. Thank you very much for taking time to chat with me.
Of course. Thank you for having me, John. How are you?
Doing okay. We're all hanging in there. That's the main thing. Cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what I normally do to start off the interview is ask the creator, and in this case you are a creator as well, about their first comic book. So I'm wondering if you remember, what was the first comic book that you read?
It was an Archie Digest, for sure. For sure It was an Archie Digest, because my main form of bartering payment in the early 90s is Archie Digest, because my godmother used to be like, come grocery shopping with me. And I'd be like, no, I don't think so. And then she would say the magic words, what if I buy you an Archie comic? And I am totally down. Yes. But, I mean, it's a digest, but it's still a comics. But technically, we went to, I remember we used to be really big on garage sales when I was a kid. And there was one really close to Niagara. And so there was this ratted up, just really bad condition Fantastic Four books from back in the day. And I ate those up. So those were my favorite.
Cool. Good to know.
Yeah.
There you go. Good stuff. So we were talking before we started recording about meeting previously. We've met at various conventions, but I understand you now have something new on the go called Heroes Manufactured web series. I wonder if you could talk a bit about that series.
Yeah, absolutely. God, I'm so happy to be a part of it. Like, I'm so happy to be part of that family. So here, the Heroes Manufactured web series is actually an offshoot of the Heroes Manufactured movie documentary that was released in Amazon Prime, I believe, 2016. And after that, it was the Heroes Manufactured TV show that just came out about 2 weeks ago.
Right, yeah.
In Amazon Prime as well. So it's, oh my God, I hope you've watched a little bit of it. Because
Yes, I have.
Very, very good. And so Yaron, who is the spearheader of this whole thing, decided, you know what, why don't we do online content, especially in this whole thing that's happening with the lockdown. So yeah, that's what the series is.
I'm wondering how you got involved in this whole project.
Oh, yes. Okay, so I used to work for Gotham Central. I don't know if you know about that place, but it's one of the biggest comic book stores out there, probably the biggest one, at least in the GTA. I used to work there in 2018. So,
all right.
Yeah, I met Yaron there. You know, we kind of just chatted up a little bit, you know, like earlier this year, just kind of being like, you know, what's going on with you? And then he told me about all the stuff that he was doing with Heroes Manufactured and that he was actually looking for someone who was comic savvy. And that's kind of where I came in.
Right. Good background there, that's for sure.
Yeah, a little bit. I would say working in a comic book store and having a podcast about comics at one point definitely helped.
Sure. We've seen a lot of shows that go on these days that are trying to capture the sort of the zeitgeist and what's going on with the industry. But I'm wondering if you could tell me how does Heroes Manufactured web series stand out from these other pop culture based shows?
Yeah, sure thing. You know, for me, what I kind of found was it wasn't one of those shows that was very media based, because a lot of the stuff, like let's say comicbook.com or like Nerdist, is very blog oriented. So you're there to follow them through, you know, news article style kind of stuff. But with Heroes Manufactured, we actually give you like video content,
Mm-hmm.
like this is how it looks like from our perspective. And this is something that I've always really liked, and this is how Comics Inc. started as well. I liked like listening to just friends talk about stuff they're passionate about, you
Right. Yeah.
know? Just kind of like how we're talking right now. Like,
Mm-hmm.
for example, Comic Book Men. I loved their podcast before. It's called I Sell Comics. And they kind of just, talked about the latest and greatest about, what's going on in the pop culture world, what's going on in the comic book world specifically. But they just kind of seemed like friends talking to each other.
Right. Yeah.
Right? So the
Yeah.
the thing that I liked about this Heroes Manufactured stuff is that it focused not just on the big stuff that's going on. Like for example, the thing that happened with like DC and Diamond Distributors. We talk about the little guys too, like all the indie creators, all the Kickstarter people, all the people that are just around GTA creating stuff. So we kind of cover from like the indie artists all the way to the DCs and the Marvels. So that's kind of what's different about it.
Cool. But I know the series is ongoing, but can you talk about the different shows that you're doing and the hosts, and then maybe in general what someone would expect to find watching the series? What would they expect?
Yeah, sure thing. Okay, so I'm actually really excited to tell you about this one because we have hosts that are just perfect for the role. It's kind of like it kind of feels a little bit like a Justice League because what you're getting is like, well, this guy's good at flying, this guy's good at the street smarts, well, street crime, I should say. This person knows magic. It's kind of like that.
Hmm.
So currently we have 4 different shows, and those 4 different shows are targeted to different parts of pop culture. So, for example, we have the Heroes Manufactured Live, which is the one that Yaron interviews indie artists, people with Kickstarters, people who just generally create. And these are people from all over North America. And you've got Phil. Phil does the movie minutes, which honestly, it's really, really enjoyable to listen to those guys because he basically talks about, let's say, the comic book world and the MCU kind of coming together and how that kind of looks like.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a few episodes in his belt too because he was the second guy to do the show after Euron. So he's done stuff like what's the Phase 4 gonna look like in Marvel,
Oh, right.
X.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Because that's coming up. Endgame happened. He did one about the X-Men in the MCU, and he did one about the Black Widow, and also, I mean, you know what's going on. There's a new Batman in town, and that's going to be Robert Pattinson. And then we have a third show, which is Addy. Addy's the host for it. It's called Game Changers, and he talks about the gaming world, and gosh, it's booming, man. Like,
Hmm.
the esports world is booming.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, for
All that
sure.
stuff. It's nuts. And
It is.
he's done 2 episodes already. One he's done about the E3 2020, and it's like, his game announcement review stuff. And the second one is about comparing the consoles, so the new stuff happening in
Mm-hmm.
PS5 and Xbox.
Right.
And then
Right.
there's my show, which I think is going to be your favorite show because it's about
Okay.
comics.
Sure. Absolutely. Something to look
Yeah.
forward to. Yeah. Cool.
Absolutely. So I'm going to be talking a lot about, what's going on in the comic book world. One of my favorite ones that I've done was to showcase Free Comic Book Day,
All
which
right.
I believe you've probably been in a few free comic book days yourself, right?
Oh gosh, yes. I mean, it's
Yeah,
something I look forward to every year, and unfortunately, with this year, it's a little bit different. Yeah.
I know, but gosh, don't you miss the crowd already? Like,
Oh yeah.
and you
Yeah.
know that when it's free comic book day, you're gonna get a lot of like our usual suspects in town, like the creators, like the indie creators that visit, and they do like little arts for kids, and they do like free comic books, and it's really sad that it's not around right now.
Yeah.
And I also did a review with the DC comic book Deceased,
Yeah.
and yeah, I'm gonna be doing a lot more. So that's my
Cool.
show. And just as a sneak peek, I don't know if you know Holly Wolf, but she's pretty damn big in the cosplay world. And
Oh right. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, so she's gonna be one of our new hosts, and of course she's gonna be talking about cosplay.
Cool. That is definitely a huge thing. I mean, anytime you go to convention, that's an aspect that is it's there, but you don't really recognize it. And I think it definitely needs someone to call it out and talk more about it.
Yeah, you know what? Like even the smaller cons, John, that we've been to, that
Hmm.
we've seen each other around, the
Sure.
best pictures that we've taken are people with cosplay, and we don't know
Yeah.
a lot about them right now, so why not?
Yep, absolutely. Now,
Yeah.
you and I have, as I said, met up at various shows, and you were there with
Yes.
Chapter House as a convention coordinator. So I'm wondering, how did you get to be part of Chapter House? Which sounds really cool.
I know, I know. Like I was just a fan of Chapter House. I remember I was just going through my like Instagram stuff and I remember it was the year that I was graduating college and I believe that was like 2013. And I had just posted a Captain Canuck article that my
Hmm.
college, Sheridan College, had posted. And I remember, God, I'm just a fan of this web series, and I didn't know anything about Captain Canuck. Lo and behold, like years later, 2018 kicks up, and I'm part of the team.
Wow,
So
that's
I
cool.
know, I know, like it was just a dream for my name to be in a book, and then it happened. So it's still surreal to me.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, early 2018, I was doing my own podcast called Comics Inc. I interviewed a lot of different artists, just like you did. No, actually, not as much as you did at that point, but definitely a good amount.
Sure.
Um, so I interviewed Andrew Thomas and Jason Liu.
Hmm.
I met Keith, and he's our publisher, and I just got along with the team. Like, I love tabling with them, and it was so much fun to be in conventions. You know what that's like.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's a
Yeah.
fun experience. Lots
Yeah.
of good energy. That's for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's just, you know what? It feels really great to advocate for something that you're actually a really big fan of.
Yeah, for sure, for
So,
sure.
I started kind of tabling with Andrew. My first time that I was tabling hardcore was SuperCon. That was the Tri-City Con
Hmm.
in Kitchener, Waterloo area. Have you been to that one?
Yeah, Richard Cumley, who's the
Yeah.
creator of Captain Canuck, actually started that. It's an amazing show and very worthwhile.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a bit of a drive, but it's definitely worth it, I think.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah,
That's it.
so I started tabling there. That was the time Jay Baruchel also came with us, and he hardly goes to conventions, so that was real special.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm basically their convention coordinator,
Yeah.
so I help out anything to do with fan expos and comic cons.
Well, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Hmm.
But I know that this year is a little bit different from what we normally go through, with the
Yeah.
pandemic and conventions being canceled. So I'm wondering how you're coping, like the rest of us, with all this non-convention stuff going on. Like, how are you coping with it all?
Honestly, John, kind of sad.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, it's super sad. Like you don't see your familiar faces like right when you enter Artist Alley and like
Hmm.
the creators area, not being able to see your local artist friends and creators and even free comic book day like what we said,
Yeah,
it's
that's true.
none of those familiar faces you get to see physically and you don't get to see them sketch and you don't get to meet the fans. That's the part that really really sucks too because they come up to your table and they geek out with you,
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. Yeah.
And that doesn't exist right now. And I can't meet any of our new fans, and which sucks because right now as well, we have our trade paperbacks that are available online. And of course, we would have had copies of it if we were tabling,
Right.
but
Yeah.
we can't even do that. So, but you know what? It's because of this lockdown. We were talking about this a few days ago,
Hmm. Hmm.
but I kind of feel like this lockdown has made us further apart physically, but it also brought us much, much closer to each other.
Right. No, that's true.
You know, I
Absolutely
don't,
true.
I don't know if you've kind of been talking to any of the other creators that either you've interviewed or are friends with, but we actually talk almost on a weekly basis, some of these people, and I only get to see them in cons like once in a while. So, yeah, the online world and the creator community has definitely come together.
Well, it makes you appreciate a lot more. I wish I could have gone to more cons last year. I'll tell you that.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
for sure. And I'm sure once this is all over, we'll appreciate it more. But I'm wondering, how do you think the future of conventions will look like after this lockdown's lifted? Like, is it going to be a brand new way of interacting with people? How do you foresee that happening?
I'll tell you what, John, because we've been to cons together, it's definitely going to smell better.
Oh, okay. Well, I wasn't going to go there, but yeah, I suppose that's true. Yes.
But I kind of, you were just saying this as well. The cons that we end up saying no to, we regret today,
Yeah,
don't
that's
we?
very true. Yeah.
And had we just taken the time, had we have just taken that one more hour drive, we would have said we went there. But I think it's going to be very difficult, like this conventions, Fan Expo, Comic Con, even the smaller cons that we have, like Toy Cons and Pop Culture Canada events and TF Cons, all that stuff.
Yeah.
These organizers, they want people to go there. There isn't even really that much of a cap. We've got enough people. I've never said a con art organizer say that they've had enough people. So it's meant for high traffic.
Right.
It's meant for the retailers and exhibitors and creators to make money in these events. And how are you going to social distance people when you will really want to bring these people together?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's very true. That's very true. Yeah, we'll cross that bridge when we get there, but I think it's going to be different from what we've done before. But I think sort of a built-up sort of feeling that we want to get back together, and in a safe way, of course. But I think that people appreciate seeing each other physically in person. We might be a little distant, of course, but still being able to see that creator there or exchange ideas or, as you say, geek out a bit. I think that'd be something we'd all come to appreciate. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think there's a part of me that if people can take away from this pandemic and what we're going to do in future cons, I think that respect is the biggest word that I'm going to put out there.
Yeah.
Because again, the whole mask thing, sure, controversial. But are you going to take your chance on not wearing it? Like you could have a cold. You could be going through something. It may not be COVID. It may not be anything too serious, but like don't put other people, kind of in jeopardy. If you can do something about it, if you can stay just a little bit further apart and just be respectful, there's just too many things going on online right now that could be misinformation, but why take the chance, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder if you could talk a little bit more how listeners can support your show and where people can find it to watch it.
Oh, absolutely. So our show actually goes live weekly. So it's a little bit sporadic. So Addie's show could come this week and then my show can come next week and simultaneously, right? But there's going to be new content every single week, whether it's Heroes Manufactured Live with Huron, Movie Minutes with Phil, Game Changers with Addie, and Comics Vault with me, and eventually Holly's cosplay show. So stay tuned. You guys are gonna find us over at Facebook at Heroes Manufactured Live, and you can also share your content with us on Facebook at Heroes Manufactured Indie Comics Creators, Cosplayers, Game Devs, and Toys, so that you can contribute your stuff as well. After the live, if you did miss it, it's going to be uploaded into YouTube. So just go and search up Heroes Manufactured, and you're going to find us right there as well. Oh, and also the Twitter is Heroes MFG.
That's what I was going to ask you about the social media.
Yeah.
They could always get the latest and greatest by following you there.
Yeah, so the Twitter is at Heroes MFG, but my personal social media, you can also follow me at the Captain Canary, and the Chapter House Instagram, Twitter as well is at Chapter House CA, and our Facebook is Chapter House Publishing. So you can actually right now, very, very exciting news for Chapter House, you can pre-order the resin statue of our beloved Captain Canuck.
Oh wow.
And oh my gosh, if you haven't seen it yet, John, you're gonna freak out on this.
Oh yeah.
So good. It's sculpted beautifully. Our maple syrup, our all-time favorite maple syrup, Captain Canuck maple syrup, is now available for ordering there as well. And all of our trade paperbacks that you have all been waiting for is definitely on our website.
Nice. Good to hear. Yeah. Well, Joey, those are all the questions I have for you, but I'm wondering if there's something I didn't ask that you'd like to get across